Hello, here is another episode of Journey of Life, Love, and Lessons. My name is Jim, and this is my wonderful wife, Carla.
Yes, and we are so excited that you are here to see this incredible guest that we have on here today. And she has an incredible story that will inspire hope and transformation in your life as well. So we're excited to have her here. So I'm going to read a little bit about her bio, and then we'll get to know her more throughout this journey. So Medea is a best-selling author of The Facing Grief with Eyes Wide Open, an expert transformative teacher, therapist, master coach, and facilitator. She is a Feminine Power, the Institute of Women-Centered Coaching, Training, and Leadership Senior Coach. Her work, which is also her life mission, is about inspiring and facilitating people in their process of transformation and evolution in order to awaken to their higher purpose and contribute their gifts and genius to their life and the world. She has been supporting people for more than 3 decades on their personal transformative journey from victim to empowered and co-creators. We are so excited to have you here, Medea, and just start telling us a little bit about what led you to become a transformative therapist and teacher.
It's really interesting. It's like I was born to be this. As far back as I can remember as a child, I grew up in Italy till I was 16. And all, like children, all the other children in my classes in the school, both in grade school, in middle school, and then even in grade 9. And then after that, we moved to Canada. They all coming to me just for advice. I was just a leader, like leading everybody else and guiding and supporting as far back as a child. And then, of course, in high school and university, I graduated in philosophy, in philosophy, a philosophy major. And I knew that I was interested since I was a child in understanding life. I wanted to know, what is the meaning of life? Yeah. Why are we here? Right. Beyond what I see, right. What's the beyond that? Because I sensed that there was something more than just what I was seeing and what I was observing the grown-ups around me and saying, no, that's like, don't they know that the most important thing in life is love? We're here to love each other.
Right.
And I was like, I didn't understand. Why couldn't they understand that? Why couldn't they see that? Because I saw that.
All right.
I felt I was very connected as a child. I used to pray. I was very popular. Like, don't get me wrong. I was very out there and popular and liked. But I also had an internal life of my own, where I would go inside and connect with the spirit world. Right. And I loved those personal, intimate moments with myself where I could commune with something higher than myself, because I felt it was there. Right. I used to speak with Jesus,
Right.
As a child, and knew that somehow I was being heard,
Yeah.
And then, of course, in university, I wanted to go to psychology. I figured that's the most obvious subject for me to major in psychology. But, first year University of Psychology, I didn't like it. It was not what I thought it was going to be. It was all too mental, too too mathematical, the first year, of course.
Right.
And I said, this is not what I thought it was. So I went into philosophy. And then, of course, it was after I graduated that I realized that I was into all kinds of alternative medicine, alternative practices. I did so much. And then I discovered that what I was really good at was guiding people, not energy work. I mean, even though I'm a Reiki master and all that stuff, but I wasn't into it. I said, no, that's not really what I want to do. I want to help people by embodying evolving myself to the point where I am getting closer to the best version of myself, my true self. And then I want to transmit that. I want to guide other people how to find that within themselves. And so I went to psychotherapy school, a transformational psychotherapy. And I did that, to training, and I did so many other trainings. And then, and I start working, doing, having clients. And at first it was a little scary. It's like, oh my God, who am I to tell people how they need to be? Who am I to help other people? Do I really know how to do this? But slowly I stayed with that because I loved it, because I felt deeply inside of myself that this was what I was supposed to be doing as a deeper soul, my life purpose. And then, of course, about 35 years later, I'm still doing this work, and I am still in awe at the power that this work has in guiding people. I work primarily with women, but I have been working with men as well, here and there, how to guide the process, to guide people from the inside to find out what it is that it's blocking them from experiencing themselves, aside from all the pain, aside from all the fears, aside from all the insecurities, really having that direct connection, that direct realization of who they are. And I'm in awe how this work makes that happen for people. And it's like, oh my God, it's like I'm in awe. So my clients coming to me and say, oh, I am, like things that used to bother me, like they don't bother me anymore.
Wow.
It's like I understand now, and so it's just really fascinating, and it's really beautiful, and it's really sacred. It's sacred.
Right.
And yeah, that's the story about how I became a therapist and coach and facilitator, and I've been doing so much work, because it is easier to help others when we have experienced what it is that we are talking about ourselves.
Right.
And we have, let's say, using a word, conquer that, or transform that inside of ourselves. So then we have, not only I have the training, I have the understanding, the knowing, and the experience, but I have done it myself. And so I've been working on myself a lot to really evolve myself to the level where I am embodying everything that I'm guiding, I'm teaching other people to do.
That's awesome.
And there was an experience in my life 14 years ago. It was about a couple of years before I decided to go to become a transformative feminine power coach. But now it's women-centered psychotherapy. Women-centered coaching. I lost my son.
Wow.
Yeah. He was 24 years old, and I lost him. I don't want to go too much into what happened, how it happened, because it's a story in itself. And it is a story partially that I write in my book that became bestseller on Amazon, Facing Grief with Eyes Wide Open, Transforming Loss into Self-Love and Love and High Purpose, because that's exactly what happened to me. So I wrote the book 7 years after, I think, about 7 years after it happened, because I just couldn't, the pain of loss, losing a child, is the most, it's right on the top of the list. It's the most devastating experience that anyone can go through.
Yeah.
My neighbors organized a memorial outside our place, and there were a lot of people, a lot of young people. And the first thing I said was like, oh my God, no mother should have to go through what I'm going through.
Absolutely. No.
And so it was very intense.
Mhm.
It was very devastating for me, even though I was already a therapist. I had already been working with, and helping so many people. But somehow this experience, and I already been, my whole family had already passed, and I'd been there supporting them in their transition. But the loss of my son was completely different.
Yeah.
And it really shattered my ego, I would say, right? My own sense of what I knew, what was important about life and all that stuff. I was already a very highly spiritual person, but
Right.
that experience, it just kind of like, not only broke my heart in a million pieces, I said, but it really like it kind of separated me a little bit from who I thought I was,
Mhm.
my own sense of self.
Right. Yeah.
There was I for a little while, I mean, of course I knew, but it was like I can't believe it. What's going on? Why is this happen? What does it mean? Trying to make meaning out of all of that. So that was my journey. And the first 6 months, they were very arduous. It was very difficult. It was very intense.
Right.
And almost now looking back, I felt like I wasn't even sure if I was going to survive it.
Mm.
It was so intense. Not that I had thoughts of dying.
Right.
But it was more like, what is my life?
Right.
My life now has no meaning anymore.
Right.
And I don't know, what do I do with this now?
Right.
So
like you said earlier, you have people coming to you, so you have the answers for them. And it's like, but when it happens to you, it's shattering, because like you say, it makes you question, okay, who am I? Am I as strong as I thought I was? And so to go through that is just something no parent should ever have to go through. But I'm sure it shattered your world.
It did. And Carla, it was even beyond, who am I now? It wasn't a thought. There weren't thought forms. I wasn't thinking. It was more like I was outside of my body. And looking back now, I think I was in my presence. But, there were many different things happening inside of me. It was the grieving me. It was the me who was witnessing myself grieving, noticing what I was going through.
Right.
And then there was even a larger me that was even witnessing all of it and guiding me. That was I guess my higher self and my spirit guides, and that were guiding me through this journey, but I wasn't aware of it. And I was walking through the fire and really improvising. I was going along. I prayed a lot.
Right.
I meditated a lot. I prayed a lot to specific guides, specific spiritual beings. For example, Mother Mary. She was actually a very strong presence during my the grieving process, because I used to turn to her and say, Mother Mary, show me, how did you do it when you lost your son? Show me, because I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to navigate, how to create my new life, my next chapter of my life. I don't know how to do it. Because whatever I knew before, right now, it's a little bit lost. It's like, and I sensed that there had to be something new. So one day I was praying very hard, and I remember I said, okay, I really need to face this, something. I need to face myself. And then I saw myself, the grieving me. It was like there was a moment, Eckhart Tolle, he talks about, the presence that is beyond form. And in that presence, we become enlightened. That's what he says. And it's true, because in that moment when I saw myself, I felt so much compassion for myself. I said, oh my God, Medea. I was like, I embraced myself literally. And then I was saying, oh, Medea, I am so sorry. I am so sorry because I see what you're going through. It was like a part of me was witnessing the grieving me. And it was like, oh, I could see this is so intense. You're going through this. I am so sorry that you have to go through this. I am so sorry. And I love you so much. They felt so much love from myself.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really, at the beginning, the first months, there were a lot of people, coming to visit me. I didn't have family here. And then after that, there was my dog. But it was chosen. I needed to walk that path by myself. I knew it. Because I couldn't read books. And I've been reading books every day of my life since I was a child. Mm-hmm. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't listen to music. And music is a very important part of my life, music and dance. I just couldn't do any of that stuff. Right. It was like, I have to access something else here and it has to happen in the moment. And what it was accessing myself. The self that was deeper than the grief, than the loss and the pain. And when I accessed that self through praying, through invocation, through meditation, then that self was what helped me. Because that self had so much compassion for myself and so much love. And that's where the journey of transformation, of healing began. And then I started making intentions that I want to live. I want to live because one day I was projecting into my future and literally I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see my future. It was like a wall. And then when I saw that, I was like, okay, I need to really, it was I was guided because I was guided, I'm always guided. I have I'm very intuitive and I communicate with the spirit world. And the thought was, oh, well, I need to tell the universe that I don't want to die, that I want to live because I sense that there is more for me to do in this life at a soul level. Right. And so that's what I did. And that's where the journey began. And then 2 or 3 years later, I was having this incredible awakening. I called it my personal renaissance because, it was just like I was having downloads. I was writing poetry. I wrote over 600 poems and 35 of them are in my book. I wrote my book and 5 years later, I met the love of my life. My twin flame. We are. Maybe you understand, what that means. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so it was like, I was able to support myself. I was able to guide myself to walk through the fire without dying, without burning. And so then I moved through loving myself, through supporting myself, I moved to the other side. Yeah. And so the journey of transformation is very, very much that journey.
Yes, absolutely.
Very much that journey. In my case, was the most intense context. Right.
I think times that people, they don't take that time, to become aware of actually what they're feeling. Like you said, you gave yourself compassion. Well, I think a lot of times people are expected to move on with their life so quickly. And it's like, then they not dealt with that grief and then they pay for it emotionally in the long run.
Yes.
But did you take that time, that journey to have that transformation time to get that healing you needed and so you could have a healthy future, so you could meet the love of your life, because without that it could swallow you up, I think, and kind of keep you stuck.
It's when we go through conflicts, when we go through breakdowns, losses of any form, in any context, they're all opportunities that life gives us.
Yes.
For us to make that turnaround.
Right.
Because that's, if we all been injured in one way or another, right, in our in our early years of our life,
Right.
because our parents or our caregivers were also not enlightened. They also had their wounding, their pain, their patterns, their limiting beliefs, and they did the best they could. And sometimes the best that they could wasn't good enough. And so we all have that. And as we grow up, we manage to separate ourselves from that, to create the separation within ourselves from the pain, the wounding that we have received, the trauma, which is in our unconscious, and then it becomes a somatic experience. It gets lodged in our body. And then at some point, when we are more mature, we notice that, we observe that our life is not working out the way we somehow wish it would. And so there's the opportunity. That's where the opportunity to say, wait a minute, maybe I can do something about this.
Right.
And so my example, the context of my life, it was the loss of my son. And I was able to do it because I already had, and that's the way that's who I am. I'm very much into I have to face everything, because I know is by facing and trusting, and I know that I have the power within myself, the knowing that I can move beyond that.
Yes.
Or more precisely, move through it.
Yes.
It's through it. It's like walking through the fire with eyes wide open and saying, I choose to live, and I choose to be happy, and I choose to be, to discover who I truly am. Those are the thoughts that lead us, as opposed to, looking at our life and what doesn't work, and then using that as a way to bring us down even more, or to judge ourselves, to judge life, to judge others. And so we get stuck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you're talking about what you're sharing there about with your son, the loss and stuff. And I remember, made me think about several years ago, I had a situation that was going on, and I was like, I didn't know what to do. And I was like, how do I handle this? What do I do? What don't I do? And I was like, what do I do? And then I had to stop for a moment. And I'd be like, well, in that time period, I was like, who can I call? I need to call so-and-so. And call my parents, somebody to tell me what to do. Then I stopped and I said, what would I do if somebody called me and asked the same questions in the same situation? And I was like, I would tell them this. And I was like, then why not do that? And I was like, wow,
Yes.
you have you want to help people. We all want to help people, but when we it's easy to help people, but when it comes to you personally, it's more impacting, more emotional.
For sure.
And
for sure.
And then and for me, it was just like, okay, what I tell someone else will work for me, won't it? And it did. And I don't know if you had that, help with yourself a little bit through their process, besides just growing and getting through the grieving. What I was going through and handle was nothing in comparison to what you had at all. But, just the principle of it, because sometimes we just, look for someone else when we sometimes have to answer within ourselves.
Well, it's not sometimes, Jim. It's all the time, really. But we are being conditioned since our kids to look out there, outside of ourselves, for the answers. That's what you're talking about. It's a conditioning that we have. And so we're like, I was calling for my mother, mother, mom, but my mother was already gone. She couldn't help me. And then I realized, oh my God, I think that's what you're saying. I need to be my own mother now. And I need to mother that child in me who's feeling lost. And I need to mother the mother in me who lost her child. The interesting thing. And the thing is, the truth is, though, that all the answers are already within ourselves, because this is the divine programming. That we are an extension of source, of the creative and intelligence of life. And as such, we contain within ourselves all the attributes that we need to navigate this life, except that we don't know. we have forgotten. We have forgotten until we just stop and make that intention and ask.
Right.
Because the universe is always listening.
Yes.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's my experience. When I may go through something where like, okay, I wonder what do I do? And then I go, stop. I go inside. And then I connect with the source of power, the source of knowledge, the source of love within myself, which is the same, which is connected already with the universe. And then the answers come. And they may not happen, they may not come instantly, but they may come in a couple of days, or they may come in directly, and I go, oh my God, that's it. That's the answer.
Yes.
It came through somebody else, or it came through a book, or it came through looking at something outside, and then boom, the connection, the neural pathways fire. And then I know that there's the answer.
Right. And I've had to do that in my own life. I've had to, like, there's something about myself, and I'm like, I accepted that as true for like decades. And then I'm like, but I feel to be, like more outgoing, or I feel to be more this or that. And so why am I not? And so I had to take the time and say, okay, if this is not really what I'm feeling for my personality or for whatever I want to do or to handle a situation, then why am I not like that? So I had to ask God. I'm like, okay, so what is it? So he took me back to a conversation that I had when I was like 8 years old with someone. And I'm like, that was why I'm like this. And so, but I accepted it for years, that was just who I was. And so once I went through that, God brought the subconscious to my conscious memory, and I went back to that conversation. It changed my life. I mean, it was absolutely a transformation time in my life, and I've never been the same since. But I took that time, like you're saying, I had to take that time of awareness and go deep inside of me and ask God, it's like, what is this? Why? And you really seek, and you really want an answer. So I think a lot of people just kind of like babble things like whatever, but when you really seek the answer, I believe you'll get it.
Totally. And the answer, the question doesn't just have to come with the mind. It was like, oh, I really want to know, what do I do this now?
Right.
You gotta drop. You gotta go into stillness.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta go in a little bit beyond the conditioned mind, the mind that already knows what the answer is, but it hasn't worked, that particular answer. So there is more. And so it has to be that to drop into the heart, and to drop deeper into that place.
Excuse me.
That place that is vast, that is still, that is beyond thinking, to access the answer. So there has to be that alignment. And the mind is an observer, but it's not leading. Because the mind can lead us to places where, it's not the right place for us to go. Yes. But, and the thing is that most people don't even know that they can actually ask, like you were saying, Carla. Yeah. They don't know. And that's what the problem is. So because you're so conditioned to look up there, because they are still living their life from the consciousness of a child, in a way. Even though consciously they have developed themselves, they could be powerful and successful people. But when it comes to deeper, personal things, emotional patterns inside of ourselves, they still remain at that level of, I want mommy and daddy,
To look for our comfort, what we feel is comfortable for, what's familiar.
Exactly. Yes. And exactly. Especially if we haven't had that much of it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we crave, it's a need that hasn't been fulfilled in us. Mm-hmm. So in a way, we attempt to fulfill that need by looking out there, even though looking out there sometimes it takes us in the wrong direction. It derails us.
Yeah, and I think that can affect your relationships when you have with other people, because you haven't really totally healed or got what that some people want approval, or some people want just like acceptance. And so I think that can make, women especially vulnerable to seeking the wrong partner, seeking the wrong person in life, because they haven't really got that development, that healing that they needed from when they was a child, wanting that desire.
Yes, in a lot of relationships are based on the unfulfilled needs of the child,
Right.
unconsciously. So those needs, see, we are responsible for our own needs.
Right.
We are responsible for our own feelings. We are responsible for our own inner experience.
Right.
To understand what that is and to see what needs to change, and then take the steps to change, to heal, to transform.
Right.
So when we go into a relationship, most relationships are based on the unmet needs of the child. And
Right.
so we go in there we go into a relationship expecting that the other person is going to give it to us. And then when we don't get it, then we make the other person wrong.
Right. True.
And then, and then the other person makes us wrong, and so on and so forth. And then the conflict and the problems, and then it goes in the wrong, the relationship ends.
Right.
But in relationships, when I work with couples, each person has to take responsibility for what they bring into the relationship.
Right.
To recognize it. This need that I have to be loved. It comes from when I was growing up, that I felt I wasn't loved enough.
Right.
If it's a woman, possibly, either parent, without going into many details. So I am consciously looking for that love. And so that love that I'm looking for from my partner, it's not the adult love that is shared, that is given and received. It's more of a needy love, an attachment, a codependent love.
Right.
That is like, I have to fulfill this need inside of me, and it's got to be a particular way, and it's got to be this way.
Right.
And so when people start realizing, oh my goodness, this is really something that from there, and realizing that I have to learn how to love myself first.
That is true.
I have to give to myself. And I mean, of course, it requires the process of learning how to do that. I have to learn how to give to myself what I didn't receive from my parent. That's when I become more of a whole person. That's when I become more mature and more self-reliant and self-aware and inner directed. Yes. And then I can meet the other person at that level, because they have done the same thing. So then we can really be two free human beings,
right?
Two adults, two mature, who are just ready to just share their love with each other, give it and receive it.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes, like for me, this is a thing happened about 15, maybe 20 years ago, somewhere in there, going through an emotional type of thing. I mean, just like maybe comparable to what you did with your son, lost your son, but it was a relationship I had that went, bad, but it affected me emotionally. And one time I was just angry and my emotions were going all over the place. And then in a moment, came to my mind, and was like, I'm just angry. And down the road, somebody said, why you're angry? And I'd be like, I don't know, but that's just the way I am. Take it or leave it. And I was like, that's so easy that can be planted in my mind in that emotional time period. But once you get past that emotional time period, you look back, you're like, I don't know what happened. That's just the way I am. And become aware of it, I was like, that would be really hard and challenging to try to figure out what happened to your life. Just like with Carla, it was years when she was younger, but it took years for her to really realize that. And I recognized that, I won't say opportunity, but that possibility of that type of thing happening with me. And it scared me how easy that type of situation could plant something in me that could be so impacting and not realize down the road. And I was like, I rebuke this.
Totally.
I had to feel this again, and I haven't. And it was eye-awakening how in an emotional time period in our lives, how vulnerable we are to those type of things get planted in us, and we don't even realize it.
Right.
And the interesting thing, Jim, is that a lot of these things, we plant them ourselves when we're kids.
Right.
Without knowing it, without realizing it. Because when we were children and we observe what's going on around us and we experience what's done or not done, to us, we try to make a meaning out of it. And the meaning that we make, somehow it always comes back to ourselves. There's something wrong about me.
Right.
That's why my father is the way he is. That's why my mother is the way she is. And that's why they don't love me, or that's why they treat me the way they do. So it's the meaning, it's made from a very innocent and young mind. So it's not the truth, and it's not the true meaning, and it's not reflective of what's going on for everybody, but we make that about ourselves. I know I made a meaning similar to that, when I was around 7, 8 years old, because I was observing and I would say, well, it must be my fault. And so then what happens is that we make an identity out of that. So when you say, I'm angry and that's just the way I am, because you had made an identity of that. Like, I am an angry person. There's nothing I can do about it. But that's not true, of course.
Right, right.
And so part of this work that I do, the first part of it, the foundation, is to transform that identity that we have to or limiting thoughts about who we are, about who others are, what life is, because they're not necessarily true. So that's part of the responsibility that we take, to go in there and excavate and bring to the surface. And when people come and work with me, there's something that is not going right in their life. They're unhappy for whatever reason, so they want to deal with it. But then as we embark on the journey, we discover that what you're experiencing in the present, it's all linked and connected to the past. And so it's really about transforming and healing the past in the present consciousness in the body, so that then we become more and more who we truly are. And then we can build our life according to that.
Right, absolutely.
According to our true, true power identity, or true identity.
Yes. Well, absolutely love, your journey and your insight and your heart to be able to help people. We're getting ready to wrap up. And I know that there's probably a lot of people who would love to connect with you, because you are, you have just that love and that security, just to be able to bring people towards you so that you can help them grow in their life from your own experiences. So how can people connect with you? You have like a website, and I know you said you had a book, so you can get that book where? On Amazon?
The book can be bought on Amazon, Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon UK, I think, and also on the other bookstore. I forgot that big bookstore.
What was the name of it again? Can you tell everybody what the name was again?
Yes, it's Facing Grief.
Okay.
With Eyes Wide Open. Awesome. I mean, it has my old last name, Chechik, but now I'm remarried and I have a new last name, but it's still me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And my website is masteringselftransformation.com.
Okay.
And also I'm on Facebook.
On Facebook, is that under your name?
Yes, Medea, Bavarella, Lapalme.
Okay, and I will put that on the links and stuff onto the show, so everybody can have that good connection with you and connect with you.
Sure, absolutely.
And as we get ready to wrap up, is there any last words that you would like to share with the people about something that you feel in your heart?
Well, I just want to say that these are very intense times that we're going through right now. And so these intense times are making people even, a little bit more vulnerable and a little bit more scared. And then it's what's happening on the outside, but also what's happening on the outside is reflecting what's also, it's scary, has been scary inside. So again, everything that happens is an opportunity And it is possible. It is possible to be free, because freedom, peace, love is something that we already are. We already have within ourselves. We don't have to look for it. We don't have to, just all kind of complication, difficult, complicated things to find it. It's us. We just need to find it. We need to discover it within ourselves. So I encourage people to look for help, find help. If you're not happy right now, if you're feeling lost, if you're grieving, there is a way of finding what it is that you're needing for that within yourself. So just go for it.
Yes.
And I also want to say thank you so much to both of you. I really enjoy this. It's been really, really great. Thank you for holding this beautiful space.
Yes, it's great you being here. And, I just want to say for everybody watching, you can, on Facebook, you can share or follow. And also on YouTube, subscribe. So when we have future episodes, you'll get alerted with that as well.
Yes.
And so we just wanted to thank you for being on here for another episode of the Journey of Life, Love, and Lessons.
Yes.
The things that you've shared have been some great lessons through your life.
Right.
And we look forward for others that, want to see this episode and see past episodes and see future ones. Get back on here every Tuesday at 7 Eastern Standard Time.
Yes.
We have an episode here, of all different types of, people in their life. We just love to have the platform to give the opportunity for people to share what they've gone through, their experiences, because there's other people who's been through those same things. Impact. And so that's what we love to do, is give other people the opportunity to impact others.
Yes. I mean, people's stories are so important because they do inspire other people, because they can identify with that. So stories, are more important than just, talking and lecturing and saying, oh, this is how it works and this is how it works. It's kind of like, because the story brings you right into your inner experience, and it's reflected back to that and inspires people, because then there's an energetic exchange and experience. And I wanted to, you're doing some really beautiful work.
Oh, thank you.
By providing this opportunity for people to share their stories. I've shared my story, but also I share my work, how my story and my work are really interrelated, because myself, my work, my story, it's all one, right?
Yeah.
But it's really important. So I really wanted to reflect that back to you. And I wanted to say, thank you on behalf of everyone who's going to be listening to you, watching your show and listening to the interviews, and the guests and myself included. Thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, it's been an honor, and we're so glad that you watch as an audience, that you have been here to listen to Medea. She's an incredible person, incredible services that she has. And so please connect with her and let her know that you appreciated her story, because there's been a journey of ups and downs as anybody's life. And so we thank you for watching, and Medea, we love you for being here. So we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Talk soon.